Today we're making my vegan pumpkin ricotta stuffed shells. I love this recipe because it is surprisingly easy. You can be a beginner cook. You can even get your kids to help you in the kitchen. If you don't have kids, you can probably grab the neighbor kid and have them help you. But it's really gourmet. And here at Rainbow Plant Life, we're all about making dishes that are extremely flavorful and that will impress your family and friends, whether they're vegan or not. And because this is a pumpkin-based recipe, it is the perfect fall comfort food. It's cheesy, it's creamy, it's a little chewy. It's great to make right now or for the holidays. We'll start by cooking our jumbo pasta shells in a large pot of salted boiling water. While the pasta shells are cooking, we'll get started on our vegan ricotta. If you've never tried my vegan ricotta, you're gonna be shocked at how good it is, and it's so easy. You just need a food processor and about 5 minutes. Tastes like traditional dairy-based ricotta. Some say even better. I tend to agree with that. And these are the ingredients you need. The base of this ricotta is tofu. You don't need to press it. You just need to pat it down with some paper towels, extra firm tofu, and I'm just adding chunks of it to the food processor. In addition to the tofu, we're gonna add some nutritional yeast. This is what's going to give it that cheesy flavor with lots of umami notes. Traditional ricotta doesn't have a lot of flavoring to it, but I like mine to be really, really flavorful. And we need a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder. I've also made this recipe with fresh garlic cloves, probably like 2 garlic cloves. But to keep things simple, I'm just gonna use garlic powder today. And a ½ teaspoon of onion powder. We're also going to zest 1 medium lemon. The lemon zest is going to add a nice pop of freshness to this otherwise creamy, decadent dish. We're also going to add the juice of the lemon. If your lemon isn't juicy, you can roll it for about 10-15 seconds with your hand to make it juicier, or you can pop it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, and that's going to make it easier to juice. And I'm adding the juice, just squeezing it over my fingers to catch the seeds because, per usual, I cannot find my strainer. And to give the ricotta a little richness without using dairy, obviously, I'm gonna add some extra virgin olive oil. And another ½ tablespoon. And finally, we're gonna season with some kosher salt, about 1 teaspoon, some black pepper, and if you want, I've got some red pepper flakes. It's not gonna really be spicy, but it's gonna add a little bit of kick. All you need to do is pulse the ingredients repeatedly until the tofu starts to resemble actual ricotta. It'll be very quick. All right, we're just gonna try the ricotta. It's very lemony, needs a pinch more salt though. I always recommend tasting as you go because everyone's ingredients are gonna be different, the tofu brand, the size of your lemon, so it's important to taste as you go so you know what you're gonna be eating. Now we're gonna use this tofu ricotta to form the base of our pumpkin ricotta filling. We're gonna stuff that into the pasta shells. It's gonna be super delicious. So I've got the vegan ricotta and I've also got some pumpkin. I'm using canned pumpkin. If you don't have access to canned pumpkin, you can make your own pumpkin puree from scratch. You can find instructions for that in the blog post. But to keep it simple today, we're using canned pumpkin. Next, I'm gonna add a ½ cup of vegan Parmesan cheese. This is an optional ingredient. It's gonna add more cheesiness and more decadence. But if you have trouble finding vegan Parmesan where you live, it's totally optional and you can omit it. And now for possibly my favorite ingredient, freshly grated nutmeg. This is actually from India. My aunt got whole nutmeg pods. She has a tree there. She brought it back. It comes in this hard shell, and then you take it off, and then you have the pod like this, which you can buy in a grocery store. And I really recommend using freshly grated nutmeg instead of the pre-ground stuff. Pre-ground nutmeg and all spices in general lose a lot of their character just a few hours after being ground. So if you can get the fresh stuff, it's always gonna be more flavorful. And nutmeg is gonna add this slightly sweet and spicy aroma that's perfect in savory pumpkin dishes. Finally, we'll add some salt and pepper. And then we'll fold the pumpkin and the cheese into the ricotta and stir to combine until everything's well incorporated. All right, let's give this a taste. Ooh, it's really good. Again, I think it needs a little more salt, maybe a little more nutmeg as well. And some black pepper, why not? That's better. So the pasta should be done. My timer just went off. I'm gonna drain it and then we'll stuff this filling into the shells. Ha, 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 ha.
We're using that footage.
You want them to be just al dente because they're gonna get baked in the oven again. And we're good. Once the shells are al dente, you're gonna drain them and then add them to a baking sheet, and we'll toss them with a little bit of olive oil so that they don't stick. A couple of the shells broke, which is fine because I only need 24 shells. I have more here, and that just means I can have a little snack. And now we're gonna stuff the pumpkin ricotta filling into the shells, about 1 tablespoon or 2 per shell. The shells are gonna hang out on the side for a little bit. In the meantime, we're gonna make our garlic bechamel sauce. This is really similar to a traditional bechamel, but it's got garlic and onion in it, so it's a lot more flavorful. And of course, it's vegan. The great thing about this recipe is that you can make a lot of the components in advance. So for this garlic bechamel sauce, you can store it in the fridge for a few days. Same thing with the pumpkin ricotta shells. So it's great for the holidays when everyone's running around crazy, trying to find counter space, because you can do a lot of this work in advance and then pop it in the oven when you're ready to eat. For the sauce, we need to dice up 1 medium yellow onion and 6 cloves of garlic that we'll mince up. So this is gonna be a really garlicky bechamel sauce. To cook the sauce, we'll start with 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in a deep frying pan over medium heat. You could also use vegan butter for a little extra indulgence. And once it's hot, we'll add the diced onions. And we're gonna season the onions with just a pinch of salt. The key to making this bechamel really flavorful is to allow the onions to soften for about 6 or 7 minutes until they're lightly browned and golden, because you're gonna get a lot more depth of flavor and more notes of umami that way. Then we'll add the garlic and stir frequently for about 2 minutes until it's nicely golden. Now we're going to reduce the heat to medium-low and stir in 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. We're gonna stir the flour into the onions and garlic until it's well incorporated, and this is our roux. Instead of using dairy-based milk, we're gonna use 1 can of light coconut milk, and we're gonna pour it in gradually so that it doesn't clump up all at once. And we're gonna cook the coconut milk and whisk it frequently until it thickens up. It should take just 2 minutes. I let the bechamel cool a little bit, and now I'm going to transfer it to a blender to make it smooth and creamy. You could also use a food processor for this. And if you taste the sauce right now, it's gonna taste coconutty from the coconut milk, but I promise you, once we add the salt and pepper and blend it all up, you will not taste any coconut. We need 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and a good amount of black pepper. All right, it smells really good. Let's give it a taste. Oh, it's perfect, it's so good. It's really easy, as you saw, and it's really flavorful. Now it's time to assemble the whole dish. I'm gonna ladle some of the garlic bechamel sauce on the bottom of this pan. A 13 by 9 inch pan works great. Anything that's big enough to fit the shells should work. The recipe says to add a 1/2 cup of the bechamel sauce to the bottom. I didn't measure it out, but I think just a thin layer on the bottom works well. And now we'll just arrange the little shells right on top of the sauce. You can be real fancy and make a cute pattern. You could just toss them in there, be casual about it. It's really up to you. It's gonna taste good regardless. Okay, and now I'm just gonna pour the rest of the Alfredo on top. In the oven, the bechamel will get nice and thick and bubbly. Before I pop the pan in the oven, I'm going to do one last step. I'm gonna sprinkle some chopped sage leaves right on top. It's gonna bring that nice earthy, woodsy fall flavor to this dish that I know you'll love. Bake the stuffed shells for 25 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until the shells are lightly golden on the top and everything is heated through. These pumpkin stuffed shells are so good. The ultimate fall comfort food. I think you're gonna love it. And if you did like this recipe, be sure to stay tuned because I've got more fall comfort food right here.